Every story appears ordinary until you see the core side of it.
And what you're looking for is the story behind the news.
We bring it to you from Lagos, the commercial capital of Nigeria.
Giving you all sides and political stories round the clock.
Every detail from the start line to the final whistle.
CoreTV News, expanding your view.
Hello there, welcome to CoreTV Primetime News, reaching you live from our studio here in Lagos, Nigeria. I am Abosede Omawi. Now, in our top stories. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Now to details of the news. A full panel of Nigeria's Supreme Court of Nigeria sitting in Abuja has sacked the senators, members of the House of Representatives from Anambra State. The decision swept away a host of lawmakers from Anambra State, including the senator representing Anambra North Central District, Stella Udua, and her counterpart representing Anambra South Senatorial District, Andy Uba. Also affected are members of the House of Representatives elected on the ticket of the PDP. Chris Uba, younger brother to Andy Uba, and Prince Emeka are expected to take over seats vacated by Andy Uba and Stella Udua respectively. Former Senator Ani Okonkwo is in line to represent the PDP in a forthcoming election to fill a senatorial seat held by Uche Ekunife, who was sacked last December by the Court of Appeal. Today's ruling by the Supreme Court upheld an earlier decision by Justice Chukwu of the Federal High Court, laying out the proper procedures for selection of the PDP's legislative candidate. The Supreme Court also reaffirmed the High Court's verdict, declaring that the AGK Ogwegbo-led PDP executive had the sole right to hold the primaries in Anambra State. And away from that, the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission has fixed tentatively the 6th of February 2016 for the rerun of State House of Assembly elections in the state. The resident Electoral Commissioner Gesila Khan discloses during a meeting with the leadership of political parties in the state. Correspondent R.G. Nelson now completes the story.
And we all know that in government there is no break, there is no gap, you continue. Out of the 82 appeal court ordered elections to be conducted, 37 of these will take place in Rivers State. We have 22 House of Assembly rerun elections, and I believe all the political parties are aware of those seats. But will also involve the 26 political parties that contested during the 2015 general elections. There is no space for new entrants. Candidates participating in the rerun elections, only candidates who participated in the 2015 general elections will be allowed to participate in the court-ordered rerun elections.
Now, Federal High Court sitting in Abuja has refused a bail application filed by the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, ordering for an accelerated hearing. Delivering ruling on the bail application, the trial judge, Justice James Soho, ordered Kanu to be remanded in Kuje prison pending his trial. Kanu and two others are facing treasonable felony charges brought against them by the Department of State Service. Our judiciary correspondent Basil Okafor files this report.
This is definitely a setback for the pro-Biafran activist, as his bail application was refused by the Federal High Court. Justice James Soho held that the offences upon which the accused persons are standing trial are not trumped up, and the charges will attract severe punishment if convicted. He agrees with the prosecution counsel that Kanu has a dual citizenship and will evade justice if granted bail. The court adjourned hearing on the matter till February 9th and ordered the accused persons to be remanded in prison custody.
Just a ruling on bail application, and the court has already taken its position, and the matter is for trial. And I don't think this is the appropriate venue for us to start the trial. At the appropriate time, we shall distinguish between agitation for self-determination and treasonable felony, which is before the court.
There was an argument between defense counsels on who is the rightful representative of the accused persons. That was resolved after one of the counsels withdrew from the case.
What we applied for was for bail. And as you are aware, the court, after considering the argument from the appellant and the respondent, refused to grant the applicant bail. And then I want to let the world know that I, Barrister Vincent Obeta, and my legal team, headed by Udunoruka Udechukwu, withdrew ourselves from this case. We are no longer going to represent the appellants in this case. I told you that what we're interested, or what we have been interested in, is the human right aspect of this matter, which pertains to the fact, to the right of his liberty, and we had pursued it vigorously, and we have made tremendous success.
For now, the pro-Biafran activist Nnamdi Kanu and his fellow accused persons will remain in prison custody until their innocence is proven.
In other news, the Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, says the federal government is working to ensure the provision of adequate power supply to all Nigerians. The minister says the issue of some Nigerians going to court to stop the new tariff plan in the sector is an impediment that needs to be removed for the economy to improve and generate employment. He also says the issue of returns on investment is a major sticking point, putting investment in the sector on hold, especially for investors who want to put in place smaller power generating plants.
The minister in his tour, which has taken him to 4 states in the North Central, also took him projects in the Federal Capital Territory. With this 120 MVA solar power project, the first port of call, he got a briefing on the project from this director in his ministry, who says the project is not self-sustaining due to the fact that the users are not paying for it. For the minister, however, it is something that needs to be addressed to ensure the continued relevance of the project and its sustainability. From there, this 132/33 kVA transmission substation is the next to get the attention of the minister and his team, with only about 53 million naira reportedly responsible for the delay in its completion. These and other issues, according to the minister, will be addressed, but he says the sector needs investment that may not be forthcoming until those stalling power sector reforms are persuaded to see the good in the new power tariffs plan.
If one end of the pricing is wrong, it's going to affect. So if we solve this, we have solved the problem that is common to all the participants. Then we will go to specific problems, like we are here. Transmission now we can focus. We're working with petroleum to ensure that we also solve gas. But if we solve all of those, and everything is ready, and the price is not right, there won't be power. I am so clear in my mind.
Investment in the power sector for the minister is a veritable source of economic development and employment for Nigeria.
Every power plant is going to run with mechanics, electricians, engineers. That's how an economy is built. So imagine if those 20 power plants come on, the 20 engineers that will be there, our children. So that's the story about those small power. The price was not right.
He, however, says the ministry will continue to provide the enabling environment to the development of the sector, irrespective of the orders before it. Kazim Kasali, CoreTV News, Abuja.
Still on the new electricity tariff, the Nigeria Labour Congress, trade union workers and members of the Electricity Consumer Protection Forum have warned to close every electricity distribution company if the federal government implements the proposed increment of electricity tariff. The 40 to 45% increase of electricity tariff proposal, which is to take effect on Monday, February the 1st, has been described as being illegal, unfair, and a further exploitation of the Nigerian society. Our correspondent Sarah Ayeku has more in this report.
There is victory for us.
The struggle over electricity tariff increment and metering of prepaid meters to electricity consumers in Nigeria have been on the front burner of the Electricity Consumers Protection Forum in conjunction with the Nigerian Labour Congress. While addressing newsmen in Lagos, the Labour Union notes that the new electricity tariff is not in accordance with signed privatization memorandum of understanding.
The MOU, which was signed at privatization, it was agreed that within 18-month period, all consumers in Nigeria will be provided with meters to eliminate the issue of arbitrary billing, which have reaped many Nigerians of their hard-earned resources. And therefore, any increase without making meters available is like also reaping all of us the resources that is not even available.
With description to the federal government's proposed action, the union demands for the immediate halt of the tariff increment.
We will not allow the increase. We have closed their shop before. I mean, the discos, as much as many of them that are within our confine, in our own little way. But I believe that with the agreement and with the support of the largest labor movement in Africa, we will be able to achieve our aim even beyond our expectation, because now not only increase we are going to talk about, we are going to also make them to meter us according to the law that they signed into the privatization memorandum of understanding they signed in 2013, says that they must meter within the gestation period of 18 months.
Meanwhile, in a bid to stamp the resolution of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, the group states that the violation of the Section 76 of the Power Sector Reform Act of 2005 will attract stringent actions.
If the federal government goes ahead by 1st of February 2016 to implement the increase in electricity tariff as intended, the Nigerian workers and their civil society coalition will close all the offices of the GENCOs, the DISCOs in this country.
Will the proposed increase in the electricity tariff transcend need to having more power supply in the country? These and many more questions Nigerians are begging for answers. Sarah Ayeku, CoreTV News, Lagos.
There is victory for us. Forward.
The Nigerian Labour Congress there and the trade union workers criticized the new electricity tariff. Now, away from that, the commencement of the deduction of 15 naira receipt from every financial transaction has been a mixed grill from Nigerians. Analysts on our flagship program Core Digest x-ray the costs and effects of this new decision by the government on the economy. And away from that, the federal government is undertaking several fiscal and public financial management strategies in its bid to strengthening the nation's economy. Head of Civil Service of the Federation, Winifred Oyoita, stated this at a meeting with the Fiscal Affairs Department of the International Monetary Fund, IMF. The report.
The interaction aims at re-strategizing the country's civil service for effective output in line with the new economic policies of government. Some of the areas in focus include improved control of the nation's financial sector, capacity development, and human resource management.
We are looking at areas of enterprise document management system. We are looking at improved internal controls mechanism. We are looking at collaboration with them, especially in the area of rolling out our personnel and human resource components of the IPIS program. So there are so many things we believe we will be able to achieve from this meeting, and especially areas of capacity development for our senior officers.
On his part, the IMF representative says the team is in Nigeria to give support to the ongoing initiatives of government.
The government has taken a number of new initiatives to strengthen public financial management, And we are here to basically review those initiatives. And as Madam highlighted, there are several challenges in the Nigerian context. And in the light of the IMF Fiscal Affairs Department experience in many other countries, so we would be able to provide advice how to address some of these challenges and to recommend next steps to strengthen further public financial management. We are going to
the IMF rep says he will be giving relevant advice on how best to address a number of challenges peculiar to Nigeria's economy.
How to allocate public resources in the context of preparing the budget and executing the budget. And then finally, also how to manage better and optimize the use of the government's cash resources, in which case the Treasury single account and the better cash management system will be very important.
The IMF team will be working in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Finance and its agencies. Basia Ye, CoreTV News, Abuja.
In other news, the National Information Technology Development Agency, in collaboration with the Global Hope and Justice Initiative, has concluded training and empowered 50 Nigerians with disability in ICT management. Bukola Afeni has more in this report from our studios.
The Acting Director General of NIDDA says the agency resolved to empower the beneficiaries so as to reduce the burden of unemployment in the society. This social responsibility task, according to the DG, will reduce the rate of poverty among people with disability, as well as curtail over-dependence on government.
Ideally, government is supposed to provide the enabling environment and the private sector to come in and do what they're supposed to do. But we are still saying we want to partner with them, we want to part of what they're doing. And we are really glad that the company that is here today has promised to partner with us next year to deliver this training.
President and founder of Global Hope urged the participants of the empowerment scheme to make use of the skill they have acquired to better themselves. He says disability is of the mind and they should see themselves endowed with great potentials.
Our advice is that Nigerians should emulate this wonderful gesture by National Information Technology Development Agency, who have taken upon themselves to train Nigerians with disability yearly on IT, free of charge, empower them, thereafter to become relevant to themselves and to society and add to the economy of the country. Other agencies, I call upon them today to emulate this and come to our aid. We have open door. We want to collaborate with them. We want to see how they can support, and so that we can expand the scope of the training even beyond IT, and expand the scope of training beyond 50. We want to see hundreds of them every year being trained in several areas of the economy so that they can be self-reliant.
A beneficiary of the empowerment program says she has been able to make good use of the skills she acquired during the last training program, as she currently runs her own computer training program.
After the training, I went back and I was practicing what I was taught here. And my brother helped me to get the items that I need for me to open a business center. And today I'm a proud owner of a computer business center.
NIDDA says the IT program will be a continuous exercise as it intends to run it in the 36 states of the Federation.
We now take another break. When we return from this break, we'll bring you more reports on CoreTV Primetime News. To stay with us.
The Federal Inland Revenue Service FIRS calls on all corporate organizations operating in Nigeria to register for the purpose of payment of taxes and obtain a tax identification number TIN. All registered companies must obtain a tax identification number immediately from the nearest FIRS office. You can also collect and return tax registration forms from the Federal Inland Revenue Service Engagement and Enlightenment Tax Teams, FEAT, on compliance checks exercise in your area. A company which is yet to commence business after at least 6 months of incorporation must pay a pre-operational levy of 20,000 naira in the first year and 25,000 naira for subsequent years to obtain its tax clearance certificate TCC. Note that filing and payment of VAT and withholding tax returns must be done on or before the 21st day of every month. Register for VAT. File all tax returns as and at when due. Be a responsible corporate citizen of Nigeria. It pays to pay your tax. This message is from the Federal Inland Revenue Service.
Are you aware that the death percentage attributed to Lassa fever cases is currently put at 43.2%, a figure considered very high? Lassa fever, an acute viral illness characterized by high fever, muscle aches, mouth ulcers and bleeding in the skin, is harbored by rats and spread to humans via the urine and droppings of rats. To prevent Lassa fever, avoid any exposure with rodents, rats, as well as food and objects contaminated with rat secretions and excretions. Report all suspected cases of Lassa fever immediately to the nearest healthcare institution. Help prevent Lassa fever. This message is from the Federal Government of Nigeria.
Because I want to be a doctor and help people when they are sick. I want better education and training so I can be a soldier and protect my country. I want better roads to avoid accidents so I can get to school on time safely.
Thanks for being there. If you've just joined us, you're watching the CoreTV Primetime News. Now, a recap of our top stars. All our top stories and other information are on our social media platforms, facebook.com/CoreTV News. On Twitter, it is @CoreTV News NG. And watch our videos on our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/CoreTV News. And now moving on, there has been a bomb blast at Gombe local government area of Adamawa State. The suicide bomb attack occurred at the international market in Gombe. It is not yet clear those responsible for the attack or the number of casualties. Gombe had been captured by insurgents in 2014 but was recaptured by the Nigerian military. Away from that now, a forum of Muslim women on hijab has urged President Muhammadu Buhari to formally speak out on hijab, saying it has become a public harassment on Muslim women. The group complains about a military officer forcefully removing a face veil on a Muslim faithful in Ilorin and subsequently denying the allegation. It should be recorded that President Buhari, during the presidential media chat, said hijab could be banned in the northeastern part of the country if it posed security threat. Rashid now completes the story.
While addressing journalists in Ilorin, spokesperson for the group alludes to a scenario where a female student of the Kwara State University was stopped at a military checkpoint at Sobi Barak because of the type of hijab she wore. She notes that a similar scenario played out in Ibadan and Lagos, describing the incident as public disgrace and harassment. She charges President Buhari to say whether or not the banning of hijab is legitimate.
It is quite disheartening that the bigoted acts of Muslims in this country are really acknowledged as Islamophobic acts, and it cannot be compromised. The hijab is an induction from Allah in the Quran. We urge the President and the government's officials to uphold the fight for the rights and dignity of all Nigerian women. We urge the President to personally speak up against this attack and re-establish that hate-motivated crimes is loaded in our society.
Reacting to the allegation, Brigadier General Benjamin Olufemi of the 22 Armored Brigade in Lorry says that the woman was not harassed by military men, but was searched by a female military officer because her dress appeared suspicious.
Because she was completely gladded from head to toe. And the operative said, please, can you come down so that we check you? She was checked by a female soldier. That is in line with the international best practices anywhere in the world. So I do not see how that constitutes any form of harassment or intimidation. Even at a police checkpoint, you will be asked to come down, open your boot. Does that constitute a harassment?
The issue of banning of hijab is generating a lot of confusion within the polity, and Nigerians are expecting President Buhari to speak out whether hijab is allowed or not in Nigeria. Rashid, CoreTV News, Ilori.
And now to Lagos State, where the government says it will not hesitate to close any private school in the state which fails to meet the basic standard required or abide by stipulated rules and regulations. The Deputy Governor, Idiat Adebule, who handed down the warning at a stakeholders meeting with proprietors of private schools in the state, says it has become imperative to strictly enforce laws guiding the operations of private schools in order to ensure high standard and orderliness in the sector. She decried the unwholesome practices in some private schools, particularly in the conduct of external examinations, saying that many private schools encourage examination malpractices. The Deputy Governor expresses hope of an improved working relationship between the state government and proprietors of private schools, adding that the present administration is more than determined not only to regulate the sector, but also take keen interest in what is going on in the industry. And still in Lagos State, the Deputy Governor, Idiat Adebule, has declared the 37% candidate success recorded in external examinations in the state last year. Adebule discloses that the government's target is to attain a minimum of 60% success in student performance in all external examinations. In order to achieve this target, Adebule says the state government has directed principals, head teachers and administrators of public secondary and primary schools to double their effort by rededicating themselves to duty and making effective use of infrastructure and instructional materials to improve teaching and learning. In other news now, barely 2 days after his inauguration, the Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello has dissolved the boards of ministries and parastatals in the state. He also officially terminated the appointment of all political appointees and directed them to hand over to the most senior officers in their offices with immediate effect. The governor, who issued the directive through his chief of staff, Edward David Onoja, says the move is necessary to enable the new government to commence the restructuring of the boards and parastatals where necessary. The directive, however, excluded 3 statutory boards and the Accountant General of Kogi State. Some university dons under the aegis of the Academic Staff Union of Nigeria, ASU, are appealing to Nigerians to support the anti-corruption stance of the federal government rather than see it as a witch hunt against any opposition. This appeal was made on the sideline at a special lecture and congress held in honor of a former chairman of the ASU, Obafemi Awolowo University chapter, Professor Idowu Awokwetu in Ile-Ife, Osun State. The academics also want the president to spread the anti-corruption dragnet across board to achieve the desired goal.
Members of the academic staff unions of Nigeria from across the country, vice chancellors of various institutions, are all gathered in this hall. The academics took time to speak on the state of the nation. One after the other, they all lament that some corrupt opportunists have almost milked the Nigerian economic cow to death, and there is need for the Buhari administration to recoup the money.
So we are at a historical period when we have to be very careful about the way we react to events going on. It's important for us to know when to take sides, the limit of taking sides. Yes, there's something wrong about the way the fight is going on. It is not systematic. There's no rational strategy for fighting it. But it's also true that if you see a regime that's beginning to do something, don't join those who are opposing.
The university dons also want the president to always respect the rule of law and fundamental human rights of the accused corrupt persons so as not to be seen as an authoritarian.
The rule of law is good. We should always remind our government to operate within the rule of law. But my question is that people who are cutting away billions of naira, did they think about the rule of law when they were cutting away this money? But in spite of that, I think that our government should still operate within the law. And we should modify the law so that we don't remain at this. Because it seems to be, to me, that these people have enacted laws to protect themselves.
Corruptive tendencies is not created by God. Corruptive tendencies and corruption is the result of the foundation on which the political ideology of the ruling circles is based. Once you decide that Nigeria will be owned by a few individuals, you can't stop corruption. You cannot. You cannot. The duty is for people who really believe in our people to take over government.
And as these academics rise to leave, it is obvious that the fight against corruption has become the duty of every Nigerian. Rashid, CoreTV News, Ile-Ife.
The Senate has sworn in Ovie Omoagege of the Labour Party as senator representing Delta State. Omoagege is taking over from Igoyota Amori following a court of appeal judgment that declared him the duly elected senator for Delta Central Senatorial District. His emergence is coming on the heels of cancellation of inflated vote from some areas of the senatorial district.
Integrity, solidarity, well-being, and prosperity of the Federal Republic of Nigeria that I will strive to preserve.
We now take this break. When we return from this break, we'll bring a report from outside Nigeria and from the world of sports. To stay with us.
Thank you.
Chima, what you do so?
Same market now.
Person when they buy the market, you no get receipt. What you do?
Which receipt? No be pocket money they go.
Yeah. You didn't pay tax.
Who be tax?
Guy, all these health centers where they run, na tax o.
My brother, make I tell you. Good road, na tax. Security, na tax. No school where your children they go, how you think say them they take pay the teachers? Brother, na tax. And if you no pay your tax, my brother, then go lock your shop.
Abeg Tunde, where did they pay the tax?
Na for tax office now.
Carry me go there.
Who go? Abu, help us look shop, abeg.
Are you aware that the death percentage attributed to Lassa fever cases is currently put at 43.2%, a figure considered very high? Lassa fever, an acute viral illness characterized by high fever, muscle aches, mouth ulcers and bleeding in the skin, is harbored by rats and spread to humans via the urine and droppings of rats. To prevent Lassa fever, avoid any exposure with rodents, rats, as well as food and objects contaminated with rat secretions and excretions. Report all suspected cases of Lassa fever immediately to the nearest healthcare institution. Help prevent Lassa fever. This message is from the federal government of Nigeria.
You can now watch CoreTV News live from anywhere in the world on our website www.coretvnews.com. Click on Live TV on our website and watch us live.
And welcome to CoreTV Primetime News.
To follow us on Twitter, click on Twitter icon on our website. On Facebook, click on the Facebook and YouTube to see all our previous news production. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Click CoreTV, leave a space, then news. CoreTV News, a 24-hour news station.
Welcome to watching CoreTV Primetime News. We now take you through a report from outside Nigeria. At least 4 people have been killed and 18 others wounded in a suicide bomb attack on a Shia mosque in eastern Saudi Arabia. The spokesman of the Interior Ministry says the authorities prevented 2 suicide bombers from entering Imam Rida Mosque in Mahasen neighborhood in the Al-Asha region during Friday prayers. The spokesman says one of the bombers blew himself up at the entrance of the mosque when security men stopped them, and there was an exchange of fire with the other. He was wounded and arrested wearing an explosive belt. No one has yet claimed responsibility for the attack. In late October, the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, ISIL group, claimed responsibility for a suicide bombing at a Shia mosque in Narjan city, in which at least 1 person was killed and 16 others were injured. Away from that now, the World Health Organization says the mosquito-borne Zika virus may infect up to 4 million people as it convenes to decide if the outbreak should be declared an international health emergency. In a statement, the Director General, Dr. Margaret Chan, says the level of alarm is extremely high. Dr. Chan discloses that the virus was detected in the United States of America last year, where it is now spreading explosively. As of today, cases have been reported in 23 countries and territories in the region. She points out that a causal relationship between Zika virus infection and birth malformations and neurological syndromes is not yet established, but is strongly suspected. Dr. Chan further discloses that the emergency committee would on Monday advise her on the appropriate level of international concern and recommended measures that should be undertaken in affected countries and elsewhere. Moving on now to sports.
Our style, that's what he delivered. Puyol with a flying lead.
Taking them out in the lead and in sports, Super Eagles head coach Sunday Olise is afraid some players being owed by the government may not show up when called upon. Olise says the Nigerian internationals had called him on phone demanding their pay and expresses fears that the country may not have its strongest squad for the coming qualifiers. In his words, I only have one fear. It is that I just hope that the next time we send invitations out, the players won't start refusing to play for Nigeria. That is something that is scary, but it is real. We have to start thinking because we're not going to work miracles anymore. Olise took charge of his first international tournament at the African Nations Championship CHAN in Rwanda, when Nigeria failed to qualify from the group stage after a 1-0 loss to Guinea. Now the sports news now. Nigeria champions Enyimba have signed home-based Super Eagles keeper Chima Akas. Enyimba hopes that its acquisition of Akas would help its performance this season. Akas led Nigeria to the African Nations Championship in Rwanda, where the team failed to go past the group stage after losing 1-0 to Guinea. The young skipper has featured for Sharks and Shooting Stars and was linked with Sunshine Stars last season. 2-time African champions Enyimba will feature in this year's CAF Champions League. And that makes it a wrap on CoreTV Primetime News. But before we go, another look at our top stars. Thank you so much for watching CoreTV Primetime News today. I am Abosedi Omawi. Have a great night rest.